Our second symposium is on challenging behaviors in autism and other development disorders. And I'm privileged to invite our chairperson for this symposium, Dr. Anoma Abegunawardana, consultant pediatrician. I'm privileged to invite her. She's my first trainer when I started this journey as a pediatric registrar. So I'm privileged to have her here as the chairperson for the second symposium. Thank you.
Welcome to the second symposium. It's challenging behavior in autism and other developmental disorders. It's a very challenging thing for everybody, like health professionals, parents, and the children themselves. So the introduction to challenging behavior in autism and other developmental disorders will be done by Prof. Myuru Chandradasa. It's my privilege to introduce him. It's Professor Myuru Chandradasa is a consultant child and adolescent psychiatrist attached to the Colombo North Teaching Hospital in Ragama, Sri Lanka, and a professor in the Department of Psychiatry at the University of Kelaniya. Prof. Chandradasa previously worked as a senior honorary lecturer at Monash University in Australia. He has obtained child psychotherapy and developmental psychiatry training at the University of Melbourne. He is the first board-certified child and adolescent psychiatrist affiliated with the University of Kelaniya. He has won National Research Council, Senate and Vice Chancellor awards for his research on child mental health in Sri Lanka and has published 86 articles in peer-reviewed international and local journals over the last 6 years. He is the president of the Sri Lanka College of Child and Adolescent Psychiatrists. Over to you, Professor Chandradasa.
There are several types of classifications for challenging behavior, but the easiest is to divide them according to internalizing and externalizing challenging behavior. So internalizing, like the internalizing psychological symptoms, they are hard to observe because they are inwardly directed. They may be seen as not concentrating doing therapy, avoidance of activities, social withdrawal, or sometimes crying and hiding. Externalizing challenging behaviors are easily noted by the parents because the parents may often do not observe the internalizing, and ultimately the frustration level will climb so high they will present with externalizing symptoms. So they include hitting, spitting, property destruction, running away and screaming, which are easily noted by the teachers and the parents and board for consultations. So what is the impact of challenging behavior? To know that, first we have to understand what is social emotional competence. So social emotional competence is a set of specific skills that all young children should have in order to recognize, express and regulate their emotions. So these are essential to build friendships, interpersonal relationships, and it helps them to engage in positive interaction, which is very important when a child has autism spectrum disorder. However, it will interfere. If there's a challenging behavior, it will interfere build of social emotional competence. Also, on the other hand, if a child is lacking social emotional competence, it will develop into a challenging behavior as well. So it's a two-way process. So what will happen when a child has a challenging behavior? To the child, obviously, they will get excluded from school. The principals, teachers will force them to go to special units and they will miss therapy sessions and they will not have opportunity to build friendships and have enjoyable companionship. Their quality of life will go down and sometimes they may experience even corporal punishment from parents and teachers. To the caregivers, it will create a lot of emotional frustration, at times physical injury, damage to properties, and for parents as well, social exclusion. The parents will say, because of this behavior, we never go out. We never go to a restaurant. We never go to a temple for a religious activity, alms giving, because the child, we fear that the child will behave in this way if we take him. So, from a study we have done at Ragama, a qualitative study about challenging behaviors in kids with autism, what we found was that almost all the parents told us that they are suffering and they are emotionally frustrated with significant challenging behavior with children with autism, which have led to a lot of problems, especially at mainstream schooling. So examples they gave was aggressive behavior, hitting and pushing classmates, repetitive behavior, stimming while the teacher is talking, temper tantrums, refusing to go for therapy, hyperactivity, and picky eating and losing weight. Also, not interacting with any of the classmates or teachers at times. So, in order to help a parent who has a child with many challenging behaviors, it's always better to grade the behavior before we start our interventions, because sometimes there may be 10 challenging behavior, but we have to find one to start the initial intervention. So roughly we can categorize according to the severity. This grading is extremely individual. It should be decided by after individual discussion between the parent and the clinician. So simply things like poor listening, tantrums, stimming and swearing, like mostly internalizing challenging behaviors, we can put to a yellow category, which indicate lower severity. Extremely distressing challenging behavior to initially intervene for the red category, because they may be impacting them more than others. So we have reported a child with high functioning autism who had one of the most extreme challenging behaviors I have seen, where he developed zoophilia, where this 17-year-old boy with high functioning autism, intellectual skills are more than average, he has a higher IQ, good language, was going to school, doing academically well, but he developed zoophilia, where there are intense sexual urges to be involved with animals, and this created a huge social chaotic thing in the village. The villagers requested the parents to take the child and leave the village, and they refused the child coming back to the village, and the parents, grandparents were feeling really frustrated and distressed because of that. So it took a lot of time for management, and returning back to their village was a marked difficulty for them. Right. So when we want to manage challenging behavior, there are things that we need to understand. First is, what is the challenging behavior? The first question that we have to ask ourselves as the clinician, and then find information from the parents, therapists, and other teachers, is what is the behavior? Okay, for example, spitting. Then the second question we have to ask is, what is the function of the behavior? Why is it happening? Why is the child doing it? So why is this behavior occurring? If we can find the answer for that, we may not be able to find the answer all the time. The things may become easier. So first we define what is the behavior, then we find why is this behavior happening. Next is, the common hierarchy is that exclude physiological reason. Simple things like pain, fever, hunger, thirst. If they are there, when we resolve them, when we give something for child to eat, or if the child is having fever, stop therapy for a few weeks and restarting when the fever is down, may resolve some of the challenging behaviors. If the physiological reasons are excluded, then we have to look for more objective functions, which are pragmatically can be classified into 4 types. The first is tangible reinforcements. That means the child is doing the challenging behavior. For example, hitting mother because the child wants the smartphone. Child wants to have a specific toy. Like that. So something in the vicinity, physical vicinity, the child is trying to get it because the mother is not allowing or the mother is not understanding the child wants it. It leads to a challenging behavior. The second is automatic reinforcements. That is, child doesn't want to have some physical toy or anything. He or she just want to reinforce herself or himself by doing a stimming or a RRB, restricted repetitive behavior, like jumping, spinning, because it helps the child to relax or gives him some kind of stimulation. So it's a automatic reinforcement. The third is child is looking for social reinforcement, especially in high functioning kids with autism, where they seek attention or in our context seek approval. Sometimes in our context, the parents may give attention, but they do not give approval. They do not approve the child as a normal human being, so the child may be seeking approval. So, tangible reinforcements, or automatic reinforcement and social reinforcement, all three, child is wanting to get something. Or it can be to escape from something as well. To avoid doing a task, avoid eating rice, or avoid sitting, they may do the challenging behavior may be occurring. So first we have to categorize what is the function according to these four categories. So tangible reinforcement in our setting, usually smartphones. When they are small, when the parents are working, they give the smartphone. Then when they recognize and diagnose autism, child still wants to watch nursery rhymes and they try to get it. When refused or rejected, they have challenging behavior. Automatic reinforcement, stimming, looking at light, spinning around to soothe themselves. So that is also quite common. Social reinforcements, especially when they have high functioning autism, they seek attention. And if attention is not given because the mother is busy or the father is on the phone or they are not giving emotional validation, it will lead to a challenging behavior. And the fourth category, they don't want anything. They want to get away from something. For example, sitting during therapy sessions. So all the pictures were taken from the public domain from Google. So how to manage their own words? In order to manage challenging behavior, we have to do strategies in two approaches. One way of implementing strategies is proactive strategies, that those strategies we do before the challenging behavior occurs. And generally as a rule, 90% of our energy should go to proactive strategies because in the long run, it is the most effective one. 10% of our energy and resources should go to reactive strategies, which are strategies we do when the behavior is happening right now. And the proactive strategies, the strategies we do before the challenging behavior starts, are divided into two types. Teaching strategies, teaching the child a strategy, or preventative strategies. So if you look at teaching strategies, one of the most essential things is improving communication, because they have communication impairments. They cannot verbalize their needs. So 40 to 50% of children may be non-verbal to a certain extent. So we have to improve the communication. What we can easily find is use the critical communication skills checklist of the PECs as checklist, so we know what are the missing critical communication skills that we need to work on, or the speech and language therapists need to work on to help the child. So improving speech, improving communication through sign language, PECs, and other ways will help to improve the communication. So ultimately, when the communication is better, less challenging behavior will be seen. And teach tolerance, especially turn taking and sitting. And for this, the best way is, all of you know that discrete trial training is the easiest when to give standardized stimulus, train the child, and divide each task to a simple task and help the child learn tolerance, especially for sitting down and waiting for their turn. And then replacement interventions. So sometimes, for example, the child may not like to sit for therapy because the child would like to go to the playground, especially at IIT. Some children who have sensory processing abnormalities would love the slide, which is in the middle of IIT, and they refuse to come to our consultation room because they simply love the playground. Sometimes, in order to get them for productive intervention, we may have to concede defeat in a sense and give them an alternative. Sometimes, instead of them looking at the fan and avoiding the eye contact of the therapist, we may have to give a toy or a car with a wheel, so they will at least spin it for a few minutes, and then we can slowly take them for therapy. And it's in order to replace more disturbing behavior, another strategy is to teach them play skills, which most of our parents don't do. They are very adamant about improving the number of words, but adding play skills help to reduce challenging behaviors. And simple things like coping skills to counteract the anger, like breathing exercises, like the balloon breathing or guided imagery if they are adolescents. And when they have extreme disruptive behavior, giving a timeout or a quiet time to help them settle. So discrete trial training, I'm sure the audience is more familiar than me. So it's a very easily used, and the parents easily understand the basics of antecedent behavior and consequences. And after a few sessions, the parents can get themselves trained, and it is very helpful in teaching strategies to as a proactive method to reduce challenging behavior. Now, preventive strategies, there are several. Another way is simplifying expectations. For example, when the child wants to go out, the child's expectation would be to run around the road without any control, but repeatedly giving simplified expectations, especially maybe writing on a paper or showing a picture that what we are supposed to do when we go outside, helps to reduce challenging behaviors when they ask for more time. And being predictable. So foreshadowing is what we use. We say you have 10 minutes more with this toy, and we count them down. We say 9 minutes more, 8 minutes more, 7 minutes more, like that. Then when it comes to 30 seconds, we start counting 30, 29, 28. So if the child understands if has the time concept and they can understand the numbers, it helps to give some predictability to reduce the challenging behavior predicted at the end when the toy is withdrawn. And giving them visual schedules and visual rules, so it is displayed in a place in the house, so they know this is the time to do this activity and help to reduce challenging behavior. And social stories which improve their interpersonal interactions, especially it can help to lessen the challenging behavior at school. And token boards like the picture shown on the slide, where we say to them, you have to work and get 5 smiley faces to obtain 1 day of going to the park with your grandfather, or to get a chocolate, or get a certain reward that the child likes, or maybe sometimes for adolescents, screen time. In order to meet that reward, you have to, these are the rules. What are the rules? Stay quiet, sit, don't disturb, like that. It is clearly drawn and displayed at home, so everybody knows what is expected. Even the parents are not there, the grandparents can maintain the rules. And now we are moving to talking about reactive strategies. So the previous two strategy types are proactive strategies, where we should put the 90% of our energy to reduce the challenging behavior. Now, usually what happens is the parents go the opposite way. They will put 90% of energy for the reactive strategies. But reactive strategies are also important because we are just in the clinic. They are the ones who are suffering. So, reactive strategies is what we simply ignore challenging behaviors. What happens is when the ignore, it initially has what we call the extinction burst. So, the parents, if we don't explain to them the extinction burst, when you don't give eye contact, when you avoid talking to them, initially the difficult behavior will increase. They will lose faith in us and will never come back to us. So we have to explain to them the behavior will increase when you stop giving attention. And we have to give distractions. Sometimes when we give distractions, it is important the parent avoid eye contact, look the other way, do not give body contact, but pretend a different activity is far more fun than what the child wants. If the child wants a smartphone, the parent can pick up a bat, pretend bat and the ball is far more fun than the smartphone. After some time, the child may eventually come and play together. And also it is important that the parents and every adult at home maintain the rules continuously. Otherwise, one parent who has permissive parenting style may be giving into what the child is demanding, while an authoritarian parent may have the opposite approach, which will lead to a lot of confusion for the child. So, in summary, challenging behaviors cause a lot of stress and frustration for parents. In order to manage them, first we have to define the behavior, understand the function, then go into proactive and reactive strategies to reduce challenging behavior. Thank you very much.
Next session is a case discussion. The management of autism and other neurodevelopmental disorders requires a multidisciplinary team approach, given the wide array of mental and physical difficulties faced by children with these disorders. Supporting families and school teachers is also an integral part of management, as extensive help is needed by many children in setting outside of the hospital. In this context, the multidisciplinary team members face many challenges, especially when working with children having challenging behaviors, which could range from difficulties in following instructions to self-injurious behavior and aggression. Understanding causes of such behaviors and developing management plans based on behavioral and psychological principles will help the multidisciplinary team to offer a better service for these children and their families. So next 40 minutes there will be a case discussion done by Professor Muru Chandradasa, Dr. Dulangi Dahanayaka, team includes Ms. Hemanti Haputantri, speech and language therapist, Ms. Indika Ratnayaka, occupational therapist, Ms. Samanmali Tennakon, lecturer in social work, Ms. Kian Dilukshi, community psychiatry nurse. Over to you all.
Thank you, Dr. Anama. Unfortunately, Professor Muru Chandradasa had to go for a competing commitment because we ran a bit late. So we will, the multidisciplinary team will attempt to discuss a few cases with you. So we have made 3 short case scenarios, which we would like you to take about maybe 10 minutes and discuss among your within your tables, and then we'll also present what we have thought about the different behaviors and how we can manage that, and we will continue it as a bit of a dialogue. So So, how can we divide? So, we can divide because we have 3 case scenarios. So, we can give one case to this side, then one for the middle, and one for the right side of the audience. We'll distribute the case scenarios. We'll also attempt to put it up on the PowerPoint. Yeah. Yeah, we will take 10 minutes for the brief discussion, and then we'll. We are 1 hour late, ma'am. 1 hour late, madam. Yeah. Yeah, we can take a little less than that, madam. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So we'll discuss until about 5 past 1, and then I hope there will be some people to speak up and present what they have discussed. A 2-year-old boy is brought by his mother due to limited eye contact, repeated hand flapping and spinning. He does not say any meaningful words. He is also hyperactive. He is moving around. He is looked after by his grandparents during daytime as parents are at work. He has been kept in front of the television screen for several hours a day, as the grandparents could not cope with his hyperactivity. So when he came to the clinic, he was diagnosed as having autism spectrum disorder and referred for speech therapy and occupational therapy. So what we thought of discussing is what are the possible challenges that the therapist could face when managing this boy. What do you think are the possible challenges that therapists might face? Because this is a 2-year-old boy with a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder, and he's also quite hyperactive. And his grandparents are looking after him. So what are the possible challenges that we might have when trying to work with this child and the family?
Can I ask you a question on
Yes,
that?
yes.
What do you expect the therapist to do with this 2-year-old child?
Yeah, so one thing, madam, of course, there is limited eye contact and he's having some, autism spectrum disorder. So we want the therapist to start early intensive behavioral interventions to help the child develop the necessary skills to communicate and also to reduce the hand flapping and other repetitive behaviors.
Now he's only 2 years. And that's why I asked the question, what do you expect the occupational therapist to do? All his behaviors are related to the autism spectrum disorder. So therefore, the intervention has to be for autism spectrum disorder. So being a 2-year-old, I think what we believe is, or the current thinking is, that more home-based intervention would be the ideal. So for that to happen, the parents will have to clearly understand what the problem with this child is, that he has autism and what is autism, and why this child is doing all this. I think that education takes priority over everything else. And often they can manage, it's nothing to do with the occupational therapy, but they can manage. It's if they know what to improve. Because occupational therapy, the occupational therapist will introduce. I think one of the earlier speakers said, if this time, this session, and the next occupational therapy session, nothing happens in between, the time is wasted and nothing will improve with the child. So, rather than asking the question what the speech therapist or the occupational therapist would do, I think the very first thing, we talk about the naturalistic environment where the child has to be. And of course, the first target should be correcting the difficulty in making connections or social interaction and social communication behaviors. And the basis of that is joint attention, right? Improving joint attention with the parents in the home base might be the ideal thing to do. That's what I believe. I mean, if you can, rather than, because the child is only 2 years old. So, number one is educating the parents on what autism is and why these behaviors occur and what they can do in improving joint attention. And because unless you improve that, none of these behaviors will go away and the communication will not start. You can make your, I mean.
Yeah, yes, madam. That's
Dulangi.
one of.
Sorry.
Not at all, madam.
Dulangi,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm just going to tell. I think you asked a different question and madam answered gave a different answer. You asked what are the challenges that the team will have dealing with the parents, right? That was the main.
Dealing with the family.
Yeah,
and
family and the child. Yeah. Yeah. So, madam, just yes.
Part of therapy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not be the right thing
Yeah.
at this moment in time.
Yeah, so basically I'll tell you a few points that the entire team will face as difficulties. One thing is parents, even if we tell madam that they have to go home and play, parents will not agree with that. They will say, we don't know how to play. Why are you not doing it? Why are you asking us to do that? We have had enough with this kid, right? He doesn't look at us. I'm just telling you the practical things. This is what I think you expect.
And then they will expect more frequent appointments.
Yes,
madam.
and they
That
will
is the
say,
other
why
part.
don't you give us medicine? Why is that doctor not writing a prescription? So these may be the practical challenges to that. Just
Yeah.
to let you.
And like madam mentioned, another thing that we expected was this gap in knowledge. Because now these parents would need a lot of input in terms of what this disorder is. And to understand that all these are part of this disorder. Because nowadays what our experience is, parents generally read a lot online, especially working parents. Now these are working parents, and then they do have their own ideas about what this could be. And sometimes they tend to sort of break it down into several parts and decide that there is a element of ADHD. And then it's quite challenging for us to sort of get it across to them that this might all be part of one disorder. Especially in a 2-year-old, it can be very challenging to differentiate whether this is ASD with ADHD. And parents, they read and then they decide that, we need to give this child methylphenidate and then come and directly request for that, like madam said. So that's one huge challenge, because in order to retain these parents and the child in therapy with us, we have to somehow build that trust. Because if we don't prescribe and if we say, no, there's no ADHD, then that trust, it might be very challenging. Then we have to sort of get what they are saying, what their thoughts are like, and what they have read, and find out what they feel is going on. And then try to slowly convert it into our formulation. Otherwise it can be extremely challenging sometimes to get it across, especially to working parents who are very busy, and then now the grandparents are also sort of exhausted. They might be saying that they can't look after this kid without the television. So that's a huge challenge that we face to get this information across.
I think that is you can't take, when they first come to you, you can't take shortcuts. You have to be prepared to spend a lot of time with them. And even if they, I think we have to accept that follow-up is not very good with anything, right? And if you do a really thorough job when they catch them the first time, I think there is a chance of them coming back. Even if they don't, they have some idea what it's about. At some point they'll return. So that very first a consultation is terribly important.
Thank you, madam. Yes, it's because the first consultation might be all we have sometimes before they go in search of other therapies and alternatives. So, if when you see them for the first time, that I mean, cannot be overstated. I think our and language therapists and our social work people have also had experience working with families. Anything you want to add, Samanmali, to this?
Strength, I think, is still 2 years. So start early intervention is more practical and more effective. So the best strength of this kid is 2 years. So start early intervention is the best as a multidisciplinary approach.
Can I add a few more points? Like we can acknowledge that they have considered bringing the child to the clinic. So it's one good thing. Second thing would be they have extended family support and parents are looked after by caring grandparents. And we have to find a middle ground that the parents and the grandparents would work out in the day-to-day activity, that we can include some of the activities to reduce hyperactivity and do fun games in order to retain attention. So then we have to convince them somehow. So the challenges would be to convey the message to the parents, like how to do the work at home. Second thing would be stopping the screen time. So then what will you do after stopping the screen time? You have ample time. So how would you utilize that? So I think getting with the limited, I think I totally agree with Dulangi madam, because we have very busy clinic. So with the limited time period, how can we convey that message to the parents so that they would come for a next session? And then it is quite challenging, but with the rationale, I think sometimes it would work, but it's quite challenging to be said.
I feel it's always a work in progress, because sometimes we might have good times when they do engage and we make progress, and then there are going to be difficult times also. So that's also, I think, something we might have to accept and support the parents through, because there are always going to be ups and downs in their lives. And the child's progress is also not going to be like a steady upward trend. So there are going to be challenges, and this child is still 2, so we have a long way to sort of go with these parents, to engage with them, and also to engage the grandparents, because I think that's a resource that we can utilize in this sort of situation. So yeah. Yes.
And advise them.
Yeah, so we will need to involve the grandparents in our therapeutic encounters.
Yeah, that would be a better approach.
I don't know, Dulangi, how much you all are aware of it. So we held a pre-congress workshop on autism, and we showed all the participants how we can use videos, home videos, to look at how parents interact. Because even if we showed, like, even after intensive parent training, how parents go back and play with the kids. Very much far away from what we expect them to do. So this kind of home-based videos is one of the best methods recommended by all evidence-based practices. So at IIT we are doing 100% now home-based video monitoring. So it's not telehealth. It's they bring videos with them when they come to us, or they might send a video through a WhatsApp. And that is one of the most effective ways that we have found, because we keep connection also. And even if they don't respond to us, we keep on reminding them, please send us a video. So that way they know we have built a good rapport. Our number of dropouts have drastically reduced due to that method. And it's very easy, less time consuming, and a good method that we have used. And we showed how we do it. And we plan to have more workshops to share our experiences with the others.
Limited number of therapists available, I think that it would really like reduce the burden on the therapists as well.
I think that is a very, very important message in what you said, Samanmani, that it is home-based, parent-mediated. I think that's the key thing there. The naturalistic environment, and what the multidisciplinary does in that, it said spend as much time as possible in that first session, and what the multidisciplinary team does is demonstrate to them how they play with the child and follow up with the video, home-based video clips.
Yeah, because that would really reduce the burden on the multidisciplinary team also, because they will not have to like.
I think for the family coming from Mathura and various other places, I mean, they can't reach us, but this is a very effective way of keeping them with us.
Yes. So because in the interest of time, we'll move on to the second case scenario. So this is a bit different. This is a 7-year-old boy with cerebral palsy who has been followed up for rehabilitation for several years. So the progress made is felt to be very slow, and the child is actively resisting attempts to engage him in therapy. He is inattentive and does not follow instructions. So we thought we'd like the audience to come up with ideas about the possible causes for the lack of engagement of this child with therapy. So this is a 7-year-old. He's a bit of a bigger boy. Because I think that's something that we get, like we do get referrals from the rheumatology and rehabilitation unit, because it's very difficult to engage some children in therapy, and we are asked to come up with some solutions. So what do you think are the causes for this child not being able to engage with the therapy? Permissive, yeah. The parents being very permissive, so they might, I mean, the moment the child starts crying, they might sort of stop so that the child is to avoid. Like Professor Muru mentioned, there are certain, we have to look at the functions of this behavior. So what is the function that is, serving that the child is getting out of resisting attempts to engage with therapy? So one thing is, of course, especially if the parents are permissive, then the child gets to, avoid this difficult and unpleasant situation. Because some kids find it a bit unpleasant and tedious to go through the exercises and things.
I think again we are going against the latest evidence in this case, because we have gone out of therapy about 20 years ago in the world. So I think it's high time, as Michelle mentioned, hands off, right? Hands off, natural environment, have fun, right? That is what we recommend, and that is what we practice, and that is the only way to bring in success. Children especially will have less mental health problems, because when they are not pushed and they do things with an understanding, because every child can understand, other than a very few, right? If there's only large ventricles enlarged, there's only CSF spaces in the brain, they might not understand. But the majority of kids do understand. They have an amazing capacity. It's just that as teams, we need to become sensitive to the children's moods, emotions, needs, and we need to learn. It's a competency. We have to build that in specific specialists who are dealing with children with developmental needs. I think that is the way forward. It's nothing to do with the child.
Yes, madam. Because when we are working with these sort of children, when we are trying to help them, we have to always be attuned to the child's emotional state and also the capacity to understand and engage and his motivation, because sometimes the child may not want to play with the mother. He may just want to sit down and read his book. So that in that mood, it might be very difficult to force the child, because sometimes, like madam said, when we prescribe an activity, the parents might take it a bit literally and try to force it on the child. So in that sort of situation, there can be a lot of resistance and difficulty for the child to engage with us and support us. So we might...
I think Michelle also mentioned, the current thinking is that these interventions have to be child-centered.
Yes, yes.
And that is, you join in with the child on something that is preferable to the child, rather than trying to force
Yes.
it on some, as you said,
Yes,
right, or
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, madam. I mean, when you present this to a developmental pediatrician, you will get 1,000 answers. That is the problem. You need to think about the communication, whether it's a CVI, whether epilepsy is going on. So there are so many medical things to consider, just the given case scenario, just for the information of the audience. But I think you meant just somebody who's not been having CVI, not probably.
No, it could be.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that this is there are lots of
yeah.
possibilities.
Yes. So one important thing you need to remember, the behavioral problems, it can present so many other things. So that is why the child needs very important. They have a thorough assessment, whether this child is having medical, ongoing epilepsy, that he's not attending. Whether he has undiagnosed CVI, whether he can't see what you are supposed to do. So how can you engage? Then you are looking at the communication, whether he understands what mother says and whether does he have a say in that? How does he say it? Whether mother chooses, okay, we are going to play the ball. Does he at least have a choice? Is it a ball or the car? That's it. So then comes your next things, the behavior. Obviously, he's 7 years. Now he's going towards the age of, you are expecting to have, probably he's having challenges at school, the society. He's thinking about the body image, GMFCS level 3. So, a lot of things you need to think about. So, I think the identifying challenges would be the first thing, as you said. And then as, both are, the teachers we follow, as correctly they said, the child and family centered, and it should be fun. I mean, the goals, we need to look at, really, are we looking at the goals? Is that why he's getting involved, or it is something totally different? And if it is, we purely finally come into behavior, then we are welcome to, have interventions on, those things, if we are very sure we have addressed all the other things.
Yeah. Thank you.
The hospital. Some of the babies that they have admitted for several medical conditions like pneumonia or something like that, and they have come across injections and all these things. When say, recent memory about the hospital, that if they have undergone some that medical conditions and they have admitted to the hospital recently, they have the fear to come back to the hospital again. Yeah.
Yeah, it might be. Then they might have bad memories, you mean? Yes. That can also affect, because even at home that can happen, especially if they have been forced to do things that they don't like. Because sometimes parents feel that they have to do it in a certain manner and that this is what will work, and try to really force it upon the children. Then that can create very traumatic situations for some children, and then they will, of course, not want to even play sometimes. Any other thoughts or comments?
we always been talking about. This is where we need strong community-based rehabilitation, where how the parents work in the community, work at home, to give them a follow-up in between that break until they meet in the next time with the therapist or the clinical setup. So that's why we need to have a lot of caregiver skill training and to have the skills for the parents, how to do that, how to implement that in real setup, because they don't see the real setup in the hospital. So that's where we need have this networking system to train them and also to see how they're performing in the house and what they do with their children with disabilities at home-based care.
Have any questions?
Thank you for that presentation. It's a novel, I think, not done before, right?
No.
This study has not been done before, yes. So what did you mean by late detection of isolated cleft palate? That means, have you analyzed that group against the ones who have been detected at day one? Or I didn't see a result like that. That's why.
Madam, thank you for the question. Actually, we noticed when I'm collecting data, the cleft palate missed diagnosis in the day one, that percentage. Then after they are realizing about the babies unable to feed, sometimes they are checking for the cleft palate. Then they have detected in day two. In some children, some babies, actually they have detected after 3 months or so.
Yeah, no, but my question, Malka, is like late detection of cleft palate has feeding issues and weight loss. That's what you have said. So if
Yes,
they were
madam.
detected on day one, were there no like weight losses or there had been other interventions?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Definitely. Then, if we know that the baby is having isolated cleft palate, we can introduce breastfeeding plus alternative method for feeding to top up to feeds.
Right. So it was a retrospective study that was done through your records, right?
Yes, madam.
Thank you, Chaturangani. That was actually quite an important aspect, maybe something that we had not thought about. Thank you for bringing it to the attention of the audience. Just one question. Did you explore the reason why this had been the absence of ID had been going on for so long? Was there what was the barriers and what were their system failures to have this going on for this long?
One thing I didn't explore into that end, but it was basically on the narration. So according to that narration, because they have not seen there's a gravity. So when we were talking only, so you don't get the right to education, your child don't get. Then when I was explaining, so she has not gone to a school, she has gone to a small education institute where she received her education up to grade 7. And then even her parents have not seen, because from the generation to another generation, they have not seen this is as an important component. So rather they were looking into feeding the child and walking and talking. Those were the main components that they were looking into. They have never seen this as an important matter, how it would affect in their adulthood until they die.
Yeah, interesting concept. But only thing it's just one case that you have illustrated, right? Have you looked into any other?
Yeah, we recently, because I just want to come into this. This was the latest case presentation we met. But I have seen another 2 more. Same, the same history. Because it's passed down from one generation to the other generation that they never knew about that. So I think these common things, very basic things, but no one is talking about it. So once they deliver, they will get the birth sheet and they will keep it at home, depending on the capabilities and the education that they have received. So they just keep it at home. So even when we were talking about the 23-year-old mother, and I asked the grandmother to come down, so she had the birth sheet.
I see. Same.
Yeah, for until 23 years, she was keeping it aside. She said, no one told me. I have, my daughter went to school and she stopped schooling at the age of 14. And so that's what her answer was.
In Sri Lanka, actually, for a school, they request for the birth certificate.
Yes.
At present, so I'm not sure how she went into the school. Because
that's what they have put her not to the school, that another small educational institute.
That's right. Yeah, that's
to
right.
skip that, that's what they have done.
So what do you suggest from this?
So I just want to bring it up because it's kind of this chain reaction. We can stop it at somewhere if we are educated, if we can encourage them, if we can provide enough information to these people. So this is important. So once you receive your birth sheet, go and get registered, and then you will obtain your birth certificate. So birth certificate is needed to obtain an identity card. Identity card is important to register the person as a citizen of the country. Even the voting list registration they required. So once they are not registered in the voting list, they are not considered as citizen, though they live 100 years in the country. So if we can provide this information for this type of background people, I think we can stop that chain reaction at some point, and we can help them.
Yeah, okay. So, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you have you did hear me, is it?
Yeah.
So, of the words that were not recognized, was there a mode, or was there like a word that was not, word or words that were not
Yes, madam.
recognized?
We included a microphone so the parents can add new words which were not in the app.
No, what I mean was mode in the sense, were there particular words where a lot of children were not recognizing, or was it just
yes, that is
just a random mode for the recognition of the words? You know the term mode, where the most frequent occurrence. Most frequent occurrence.
Most frequent words is amma.
No, most frequent occurrence for the non-recognized words.
No, madam.
You don't.
No,
have
madam.
it.
No.
Okay, well done. Now, did you was there a measure of satisfaction of the parents with the use of the app, and how was that measured up? Did you make a measure of the satisfaction, or just the usage and the return of the?
Basically, we are measuring the satisfaction of the parents through the feedback of them and through the progress of the child that have made through the app. And
you didn't include that in this presentation, right? That part, the satisfaction level and the progress of the children, was it included in this?
No,
probably not, right?
No.
Yeah, this is just.
Thank you very much.
දරුවා අවුරුදු දෙක පසුවෙත් පැහැදිලි වචන කතා නොකිරීම ඕටිසම් තත්ත්වයේ ලක්ෂණයක් විය හැකියි. ඕටිසම් ලදරුවියේදීම හඳුනාගතහොත් හොඳින් පාලනය කළ හැකියි. නොපමාව අමතන්න 11790.3 SLACD සහ CDB සාමූහික මෙහෙවරක්.
If your child has not spoken clear words by 2 years of age, it could be a sign of autism. Autism can be successfully managed if identified at an early age. Call our helpline on 0117 490000, a joint effort by the SLACD and CDB.
குழந்தை 2 வயதுக்கு பின்னரும் தெளிவாக பேசாவிடின் அது ஓட்டிசத்தின் அறிகுறியாக இருக்கலாம். ஓட்டிசத்தை சிறு வயதிலேயே இனங்கண்டு கொண்டால் அதனை கட்டுப்படுத்தலாம். தாமதியாது அழையுங்கள் 0117 490 000. இது SLACD மற்றும் CDB இணைந்து செயற்திட்டம்.